0, 1. Let's get started.
Hey guys, it's Maverick, and I'm actually really excited about today's video because I'm going to be talking about the Tuesday tapes, which has been living in my head kind of rent-free for probably like 2 weeks now. So I definitely knew I wanted to make this video, and I finally finished all my research today. So we're finally doing this. Let's just get right into it. So the way that I discovered this is a little different than the way that I usually find online horror series and things like that. So I was actually just minding my business in my room. I was writing in my journal and I had the TV on, you know, just watching some YouTube and stuff. And at that point it was just auto playing. I was not paying attention to what was really playing. But a Wendigoon video came on and I got this ad and I was like, what the heck? It started kind of creeping me out a little. It was giving like eerie vibes, but honestly, I've been getting so many political ads on just YouTube in general for a while, not even just during the election. Like I just get weird political ads sometimes. I was like, is this like some kind of propaganda? But I watched the ad and I'm like, okay, what was that? So I looked it up and there was some people on Reddit basically saying, oh, this is a new online horror series, and it's like the ad is coming up on like Wendigoon's channel, Nexpo, Film Theory, Nick Crowley, like big horror YouTubers and people who cover internet mysteries and things like that. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And I started looking into it, and there really wasn't many videos about it because it is so new, or relatively new, I guess. It's still going on, and there's not too much information, so it makes sense that there's not tons of videos about it, but I figured that I should just jump the gun and start my start my video now. Maybe it'll turn into a series, but I figured I should just do it now while there's not that much information out there and build on that. So yeah. Just a disclaimer though, although there's not that many videos about this, there is one video in particular that I have watched talking about this from Goose Boost, and it had to be taken down and re-uploaded. It was re-uploaded like 3 days ago, so I watched it again. But I did watch his video and I did kind of like use it as a baseline before I went and did all my actual research about the project from the actual channel. So definitely go watch his video too, because it's definitely going to be better than mine. And that is how I got at least some of the information. A lot of it is going to be me talking about my own weird little observations. But his video definitely helped me figure out where to start with the research. So love him. So the Tuesday Tapes is an online horror series, analog horror series, created by Augustine Dalton and Gabe Hall of Gloomy Texan Media. And they describe themselves on their channel as an underground production company in the Pacific Northwest. And they also say that it's kind of like mumblecore but good. So I did not know what that meant, so I looked up what that meant, and basically mumblecore is just a subgenre of indie film where they kind of focus on like people's lives, and the dialogue is more improvised. The actors are usually not professional actors. There's like lengthy scenes of just people talking rather than like plot development. It's more just about like how people live and exist, almost more like documentary style. Um, and looking at the series itself, it does make sense what like that it kind of is like that, but not really. But you'll see what I'm talking about later. Okay, I have my computer next to me now, just in case I need to look over at any of my little notes, just because this is a lot. But anyways, the Tuesday tapes are described by the creators as an anthology of incidents taking place around the turn of the millennia, so around 1996 to 2001. And it's also described as part truth, part fiction, part analog horror, part found footage, all American, which is a lot of description, but all accurate, all very accurate. The tapes in the Tuesday Tape series are created by the Latent World program, which I'm probably just going to be referring to them as the LWP for the rest of this video. And their slogan, if you will, is Damnatio Memoriae, which is Latin for damnation of memory. And this is a Latin phrase that was used in ancient Rome for when they wanted to erase a public figure or emperor or someone who had power. They wanted to get rid of them and have them be forgotten. And a good example of this, or I guess the most famous example of this, is of the Roman soldier Sejanus, who was hung out in public for 3 days for his political enemies to beat him until he was thrown into the Tiber River and forgotten, basically. Hi, kitty. You guys get to see a kitty. Big mysteries for big kitties. Please don't mess up my camera. Thank you. Anyways, so the ad that I saw was the Enlist video, which will go into what all of this is and pretty much start introducing us to the storyline and a little bit of plot. Not really plot, but just kind of like what's happening without really saying what's happening. A recurring phrase in the Tuesday Tapes videos is before the snow falls. They say locate the Tuesday Tapes before the snow falls in a few videos. And then also tomorrow is our profession is repeated a lot. And the locate the Tuesday Tapes before the snow falls, for my interpretation, is like the call to action. I know that it's not really an ARG, so like the viewers participating isn't necessarily a factor, I guess, but like in the series, there's always a call to action in any like book, I guess. So it kind of makes sense that this is the kind of interest point of the tapes are missing, so we need to figure out what happened to them, where are they, what are they. And the tomorrow is our profession thing I'll get into more later, but it seems like the LWP trying to motivate people to carry on their message, basically. And at this point in the series, we don't really know what the Latent World program is, besides just that, the LWP, they're just a program. We don't really know if they're like a government organization, if they're just like a company or organization of people. Like, we don't really know what or who they are. And we just know that they are paranoid about the information age. They're scared about the advancement of technology and information, and they believe that information are essentially like our new weapons of war, so that in future wars will be fought with information rather than weaponry, because like, it's in the turn of the millennia, so everybody's kind of freaking out about the new century turning, and everybody really was paranoid in the year 2000 about, all the computers and everything like that. So it makes sense, but it's very vague about what they're actually talking about. They're just saying like, oh, this information and the world is going to change and all this stuff. It's like we have no idea really what is actually happening or what they're really even saying. What is clear though is the fear mongering, I guess, that's happening. They're just trying to scare everyone. Like, the whole advertisement, the Enlist video, is very paranoid. All their videos are paranoid, but they're also very matter of fact. They're saying like, this is happening, this is going to happen, we are doing this. Basically just saying like, yeah, this is happening whether you even know it or not. And they believe that American values and like society basically as we know it is going to collapse or be destroyed by information, the internet, technology, all that stuff, the dot-com boom, and pretty much anything that anyone would be scared about, with like so many new things happening all at once. And it's also just clear that the tapes are pretty much brainwashing. They're meant to brainwash people into furthering their goal. Like, again, with the call to action and the tomorrow is our profession thing is kind of like a motivation to keep the goal going in my eyes. Like, if you become a part of this program or whatever, and whatever their goal is, it's obviously about the future. So they're saying like, as a part of this program, as a part of this organization, it is our job to secure the future away from the threats, basically, that they're saying. So after the Enlist video, we get episode 0, which is titled Memo, and it's supposed to have taken place December 27th, 1998. And it's disguised as a commercial. Like, it starts out as like a mortgage loan commercial, and the guy's like, do you want to pay less for your mortgage? And then it cuts to static and is distorted, and then you see a man with a cloth over his head and he's like tied up, and then it goes back into LWP propaganda about how there's gonna be profound technological development in the near future. And this is kind of where we first get, I guess, a threat. I don't really know. I wouldn't really say it's a threat, but they kind of say without directly saying, like, you're either with us or you're against us. Because at one point in episode 0, it says, lately it has been too quiet for those that are in the know. And at some point it says there's either those in the know or those that aren't. And obviously those that are in the know are those who are a part of the Latent World program and whatever they're doing. And those who aren't in the know are just like regular people. This also gives off the vibes that it is like a government agency, though. Again, we don't really ever find out yet if they are a government agency or what the LWP even is, but for me, this just kind of gives off that they're like a government agency, but that's just me. The LWP also states at this point that there's enemies that are lurking in the shadows, kind of behind the scenes, and they bring up the phrase, know your enemy better than you know yourself, but they said that they wanted to make an addendum to that, to change it to know thine enemy before thine enemy even exists. So basically, they're saying that they're predicting that they know that something is going to happen. Someone is going to get some information and wage like an entire world war, and like America is just gonna be in shambles. That's essentially what they're saying, is that like a threat doesn't even exist yet, but the threat of a threat existing exists. Again, at least this is what I'm interpreting, because it is very paranoid. Like, know your enemy before your enemy even exists. Like, you're supposed to anticipate something happening. And they also say that the world's capacity for information is changing, which honestly is valid. That is true. But again, they're not really saying like how or why or what information. Everything in all the videos is pretty vague, but that's just what makes it creepier, and that's just what makes us want to see more. So they believe that the capacity for information changing is going to bring on new types of threats, and it's going to bring on new information warfare, and that warfare is no longer based on weapons and power. Now it's based on knowledge and information. So information is basically all powerful, and if it gets into the wrong hands, then we're screwed, basically. And then in between the LWP and all their propaganda and paranoia about information and war and technology, at around 1 minute and 48 seconds, we get interrupted again by the kidnapped man with a cloth over his head, and there is another man, the cameraman, wearing a American flag mask on his face, and there's all these tools in front of the kidnapped man, and the cameraman starts picking up the tools and like kind of basically just messing with the guy, but like freaking him out, like torturing him. The videos aren't really graphic at all. They're not graphic at all. And there's no like actual violence or anything. It's just like psychological, basically. And then once again, we're brought back to the LWP propaganda, if you want to call it that. And they state rather cryptically that we are everywhere and we are nowhere. And that's pretty like much symbolizing to me that they're not really like a physical entity. They're more of like an idea or a concept, like the Illuminati or something. But that they're not like, obviously they're not a physical thing. They're just a concept. They're just an idea, but like it's very powerful. They basically are information, I guess. Um anyway, so they're telling us that they are like running things, I guess, behind the scenes. And the same thing with the enemies or whatever threats that they're talking about. They're not physical things anymore, they're just like concepts. And that's definitely, I think, why they're so paranoid, because they're literally hunting down something that doesn't actually tangibly exist, because you can't like hold information in your hand. Hopefully I'm wording all of that right, because I kind of just went a little rambly there trying to like explain what I'm saying, but it makes sense in my brain, so that's fine. But then that's pretty much episode 0. Not too much is happening yet, but we're laying the foundation. You know, the LWP is making itself known, and yeah, we're about to get to the good part though, I promise.
We know that these halcyon days are numbered, but as it stands, Americans will not readily accept war against an enemy that is not yet. Bringing about the world that we seek will likely be a long and arduous process, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event. For example, a new Pearl Harbor.
I just wanted to really quickly talk about the clip that I just put in. At the end, they say something about another historical attack on America, which again, I'm probably not gonna talk about because I don't want YouTube to like flag me for talking about stuff. Anyway, but famously it was a surprise attack, and so that was near the end of episode 0. So it's basically just more foreshadowing, symbolism, subliminal messages alluding to the title of episode 1, Jacklight, which is to surprise attack someone or something, I guess. And then basically they're just talking more about how America's not ready to wage a war on something that doesn't exist, but they're saying we are ready because we know that this threat is eventually going to happen. So they're basically just saying like we're kind of silently waging our war in the background, so come join us. Now we're on episode 1, which is called Jacklight, and it's supposed to take place November 7th, the year 2000, so about 2 years after the first episode. And this is my personal favorite episode in the series, just because I think it's the juiciest. I think it's the most interesting, and it actually is the longest. It's about 13 minutes long, and most of the videos are much shorter than that, about like 3 to 5 minutes, and then there's one episode that's like 9 minutes long. But this is my favorite part of the series so far. I just feel like it's the most entertaining to watch, I think. The rest of them are more building on information and building on the story, and this definitely does build on the story.
Why, so should you. Now, we trust freedom. We know freedom is a power.
Episode 1 starts off with a clip of, I believe the first one is the shot of, it's just like the road, someone driving at night, and it's dark, and President Bush is on the radio, and he's talking about American freedom. I'll probably insert the clip of him talking a little bit in a second if it's like actually relevant. But he's just talking about American freedom, and it's basically, to me, this part shows that the LWP believes that this new era, this information age that's happening, is putting American freedom at risk. So it's basically just kind of like doubling down and solidifying what the LWP is afraid of and what they believe in, and kind of still like alluding to this goal that we have no idea really what it actually is. Like, we don't really know what they're doing. We do see more in this episode what they're kind of doing, but like big picture, like we really don't know. But what this episode is actually about, and after that clip of President Bush talking on the radio, you get the LWP, the blue screen, like introducing like what this video is basically that we've seen in the last episode. All the episodes start out like that, and they also all start out with a blinking message that says for internal use only. So like for internal use at their organization. We do find a little bit more out about their organization through actually just this like title screen. And basically the title screen tells us that this episode is a report on the investigation of the neutralization of Italian journalist Silvio LaPaglia. So neutralization is an interesting choice of words. That also gives like government agency type talk. But basically they're talking about killing him. And this is also where we figure out what the people in the video are for, basically, because the kidnapped man was in the last video and he wasn't really like a big part of it, but they did have a guy being tortured, and so like why? But basically we'll find out that Silvio, the Italian journalist, was a target for the LWP because he intercepted somehow some type of meeting between the LWP and a sister organization that we have no idea who the sister organization is, what they are, why they are, anything. And apparently Silvio also has emails of information that was talked about or discussed in the meetings. So they deemed him an info hazard and they need to neutralize him. So basically the subjects of the videos, the people being tortured, are deemed as info hazards by the LWP. And so we obviously know they care so much about information and information not getting into the wrong hands, or basically I guess anyone really getting the information that they have. So they are hunting and neutralizing the info hazards. So now that we know why they're hunting people, we basically just get to see them hunting people. So Silvio is an info hazard and they found that out, and so now they're watching him. So they know that he fled to North America because he's Italian. I'm not sure where he is supposed to live, but he flees to North America somewhere, and he is living under an alias, but they're still watching him, obviously, and he's apparently not being that careful because his alias is found at like every single escort service in the city that he's living in. So Mans is getting busy, but they surveil him for 72 hours and they set up a little sting operation, basically. So the LWP obviously is some type of program, it's some type of organization. They obviously have people, but apparently they just casually have field agents that just do these little missions for them. I don't know why that took me so long. They do these little missions for them, which is another reason that I strongly believe that the LWP is like supposed to be some kind of government organization, but I digress. They set up this little sting operation and they bring in 2 of their best field agents. And of course they have fake names. So the fake names are Artemis and Apollo. And Artemis is a woman, so she basically seduces Silvio. They meet up at this bar, and Apollo, the man, and her partner in crime, is filming them and watching them the whole time, obviously. Also, as Apollo is like filming Artemis and Silvio on their little fake date thing, you can kind of see Artemis like looking up at the camera sneakily every so often. If you like really pay attention, it kind of just looks like she's like looking up and being like, hee hee, like I see you, hee hee, we're so silly. But also while they're like going out on this little fake date, Apollo ends up going to Silvio's apartment and like filming everything in there and setting the stage for what they're gonna do to him later. So at this point in the episode, there's another interruption of President Bush talking on the radio, but this time he's talking about how the American military became weak during the time between World War I and II, and he's also talking about like wanting to use military resources more scarcely. Like he's saying that certain other people would use military force like right away, like, but he was saying like, oh well, we need to wait, we need to not use our military like crazily, we need to reserve our resources, I guess. And for me, this ties into the like knowing your enemies before they even exist type of thing, because Bush is basically, he was talking about some military conflict and he was like, oh well, I wouldn't have put the troops in immediately, I would have waited. And I guess for that part, the LWP is kind of saying, well, that's stupid because you should know your enemy before they even exist. So you should always be ready, I guess, always be ready for a threat, always be ready for the conflict. And that they're trying to strengthen their obviously not their military, because they're not a military, but they're trying to strengthen their defenses against this information war or whatever they think is happening. But then after that, we get back into the actual storyline, and Apollo is still filming them. They're finally back at Silvio's apartment, and Artemis is like making out with him and stuff, and they get on the bed and Apollo is filming them on the bed, and they're still just making out, and like he's, you know, has his shirt off, and eventually Artemis like takes a pill. I think it was a pill, but she takes something out of her bra, and it's a drug, and she feeds it. She literally just like feeds it to him. Like I'm pretty sure that like they probably talked about like, oh, we're gonna take whatever, because he just like takes it. Like if I was him and I like just met a random person and they were just like, here, I would not just like be like but like I'm assuming he probably just thought it was like ecstasy or something. Again, this is not even relevant. This isn't even like a part of the story. It's just like me. I thought that was weird. But he just like takes the pill, and again, in the like screen where the LWP is like explaining what's going on, they give us some insight about about the drug, basically, not really about what it is. They actually don't, they redact the name, like they censor the name of the drug in the explanation, or whatever, if you want to call it, in the information that they give you. But they basically say that it's a variant of like a hallucinogen that is typically used in rave culture, which is kind of why I was thinking of like ecstasy. But they obviously like engineered it differently, and they stated in the video, they said that they cut the pill with one person in mind, which was Silvio. So they like specifically made this pill to kill him. But they specifically made it just for him. And I probably sound like a broken record at this point, but once again, that's giving government agency vibes. Like that, it's giving like you're some secret agency in the government or something. Like this cannot just be a collective of people. And if it is, then I don't even know. Obviously. The list of symptoms that the LWP gives us for the drug is rapid increase in body temperature, sudden delirium, and loss of control of muscles or paralysis. So, definitely doesn't sound like a fun rave or like a fun time that I want to have. So, after Artemis literally just gives him this pill, he starts like kind of feeling it. Like he starts like going like that, and he's just like, oh, and he kind of starts like pushing her off because she's like on top of him, and he starts like, he's like, ugh, no, like get off of me, like, oh, I feel like crap. Like you can just tell like he starts just feeling like crap. And she is just kind of, she starts like actually just like looking at the camera at this point. Like she's like, yep, it's working, like we got it. And so he, like, Silvio falls to the floor pretty much. He is like dying at this point. He's like, oh god, I don't feel good. He falls to the floor, and Artemis like looks over and is like, hee hee. And Silvio gets up and goes to get some water or something. Like he is like at the sink, and Apollo is right behind him. And when Silvio turns around, he sees Apollo, who he has no idea is in the apartment. He thinks that it's just him and Artemis. But he sees Apollo, and he is just completely stunned. He's like you can see it in his face. The second that he sees Apollo, he's like, and that is the second that he got jacklit, basically. The title of the video, this is when he gets stunned, and basically when he gets hunted, like, duh. Because at this point, he is on the floor now. They're in like some other room. He's on the floor. Artemis is like laughing at him, and like they're basically just playing with his body. Like they're not like hitting him or like violent with him or anything. They're literally just like playing with his body. They're just like psychologically torturing him because he is delirious and he can't move, and he's just on the floor, and they're just there, and he knows that like at this point they're in there trying to hurt him. So, you know, that's torturous, that's terrifying, that's psychological torture. And the LWP also put in something about how you get way more overstimulated, obviously, when you're high on this drug, because it's like stimulating all these parts of your brain, like, obviously. So at some point, Artemis and Apollo get this, like, radio, or, oh my god, CD player, like a boombox, with the headphones, and they put the headphones on Silvio and they turn it up, and it's like grindcore, like screaming, just like super loud, and they turn it up all the way, and he is like freaking out. It's obviously super painful, super uncomfortable, just torturous, just terrible. So they're pretty much just like playing with his body and torturing him with overstimulation. And like at one point he starts foaming at the mouth, really gross. And Artemis just like keeps playing with his body and like smearing his face and stuff. They're just having a good old time messing with him. And it's not like super hard to watch or anything. It's just like, ugh, like my stomach hurts just watching that. Like if I was him, no, like I cannot. It makes me want to like throw up. Like it does make my stomach turn. One thing interesting that I did want to point out about Apollo, though, was that he's wearing the same American flag mask that the cameraman or the torturer or whatever you want to call him from episode 0 was wearing. Excuse me. He's wearing the same mask. So you kind of think, okay, well, is the man in the first video Apollo too? So that's definitely a theory, because there's not really that much evidence, there's not really that much proof. Like, and in the first video you can't really see too much of the American flag mask man. You can't really see like if he has long hair or not, because Apollo does have long hair. Once you actually see him, he has like long dark hair, but you can't really see too much of the man in episode 0, so you don't really know 100% if it's him or not. But the mask is the same mask. So my theory is either it's Apollo in episode 0, or the American flag mask is just the mask that the LWP field agents wear when they're doing field work. So like when they're torturing people, basically, or whatever other kind of field work that they do, because they don't want to be known. They don't want their identities to be known, because Artemis and Apollo are already pseudonyms or aliases anyway. And in this episode, in the beginning, it does say that Artemis allows her face to be shown because like she assumed a fake identity with Silvio, so she's basically like, okay, well, my real identity's not out there, so I don't have to wear a mask. So that's kind of my theory, is either it's Apollo is like the main like torture guy, because it does say that he is like one of their top 2 agents. Either that, or that's just like their like uniform, kind of, because this whole series is like American, about America, about American values. Like the whole thing is like centered around like the American information age and all that stuff. So it would make sense that their like uniform or their like sanctioned mask would be like an American flag mask, because they're doing this all for the greater future of America. But yeah, so that's pretty much where I was at with that. One other thing that happens during the torture, and I think the last thing is that Artemis says, "Welcome to America, you dirty rat," or something. She says, "Welcome to America," I know that. Then she says, like, "You dirty rat," or "You rat," or something like that. But she says, "Welcome to America" to Silvio. And that stuck out to me just because, yeah, Silvio is an Italian journalist, so he's not American, so he's not from America. So she's like, "Welcome to America, like, this is what you get for coming here and, like, messing with us," I guess. But I was kind of thinking that she was saying, "Welcome to our America, welcome to the LWP's America, welcome to our goal, our journey, like, our America," because they're trying to, like, change the future, change the world. They're trying to, like, change the course of society or whatever. So that could be symbolic of her being like, our um this is our project, and we're paving the way through this. So welcome to this. But again, it could just be because, like, he's not American and they are, like, supposed to be protecting America or whatever. So she's like, "Welcome to America, you foreigner." But I did just think it was kind of like an interesting little tidbit, just in case it was kind of like, "Welcome to our newly reformed LWP America." Then the LWP gives us a list of overdose symptoms, which, like, the symptoms of the drug were already pretty bad and pretty much, like, seeming like an overdose. But the symptoms of overdosing on the drug are wherever I wrote them down at. This is like, it's all so jumbled together. Symptoms of overdose include heat stroke, cardiac arrest, hyper or hypotension, intracranial brain hemorrhage, and obviously death, which, like, all of those things pretty much sound like they're about to cause death. So yeah, like, combined with the symptoms of the high, and then obviously they gave him enough to overdose, like, just awful. So you can pretty much assume that Silvio dies because you don't really see anything, like, happen to him besides them, like, messing with his body and playing him loud music, and then he starts foaming at the mouth, and then that's pretty much all that you see of, like, his torture or his death. But you can pretty much just assume that he's dead because they gave you all those terrible symptoms, and foaming at the mouth is never good. So they don't really show you, like, his body or anything. The next time, or the next clip, is of Artemis and Apollo outside, because they go through his apartment, and then Apollo finds cigarettes, and they're like, "Ooh, cigarettes," and they go outside, and they're literally just casually talking. Like, Artemis starts smoking a cigarette, and Apollo's like, "Oh, well, I thought you quit," and she's like, "Well, I haven't smoked since blah blah blah." And then he starts talking about Denny's. He's like, "Oh, I think Denny's is still open," and she's like, "Oh my gosh, yes, I want some eggs and bacon." Like, she is literally just like, "Yes, I want eggs," and they're just, like, casually just chilling, like, smoking, which like, I thought that their nonchalantness was pretty telling of the LWP and the Tuesday Project. because they're obviously either so brainwashed that they genuinely believe that this is gonna be right or good, like that they're doing what's right and they're doing something good for the future of America, like that they just don't care. They don't even care that they've just like killed someone. Not even like, oh my gosh, I've just killed someone, that's terrible, but like, oh my god, I'm gonna get caught. Oh my gosh, like I'm gonna go to jail. Like they're like, nope, the LWP got my back. I know what I'm doing and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like they're just chilling. So either they're so brainwashed by the LWP that like they just believe that this is right, this is what they're supposed to be doing, this is what they're meant to be doing, like this is what is needs to happen, or they're like higher ups in the organization, but because they are like, again, they are allegedly the two like elite agents or something, so it's not like totally far-fetched, I guess, that they could be behind the scenes and like a part of the program, but it seems more that they're just like brainwashed into it. But also Artemis does kind of seem like she would like to torture people just because she makes like a comment about like how she likes torturing men or something, that it's the best. But that was really just like kind of in passing. I feel like it's just supposed to make it a little more creepy. Episode 1 ends though with the LWP signing off basically with their little like text screen, and they explain basically that Silvio's website and pretty much his entire identity and existence is now a 404 error. His website's gone, everything's gone, every trace of him is gone, and it's gonna be a few days, several days, maybe even weeks before anyone even realizes that he's gone. Because, I mean, we have no idea anything about his personal life besides that he likes escort services, but he obviously is by himself in a foreign country to him. No family that we know of, but like no family in America. So it definitely would not be that hard for them to like cover up his death, but they're just so confident that like, yep, he's forgotten, and they do say he's forgotten. And damnatio memoriae flashes on screen again. It comes on screen a lot, just because it's literally like their catchphrase, their slogan, and it ties into the being forgotten, which is a big thing. And the next video pretty much explains what the whole forgotten thing is kind of about, just a little bit. But yeah, so basically they have annihilated Silvio and wiped his existence from the face of the earth, and we still have no idea what information he even had. So that's where we're at with that. So the next video in the series isn't an episode, it's another like promotional type video. I wouldn't really call it an ad. It's similar to the ad that the Enlist ad, and I only really call that an ad because I saw it as an ad and it's being advertised as an ad on YouTube. But I don't know if I would really call it like an ad, but it's more of like a promotional propaganda style video. Like all their videos are like propaganda style. But it's called A Higher Patriotism. So the American theme, like the patriotic theme, really is running deep throughout this whole thing, and I honestly like that. I am usually not into, I guess, like patriotic stuff, like duh. I don't know. I'm usually not into stuff like that, but there's something just like so, I don't even know. I don't even know like the word that I'm looking for, but it's just like it's the heart of a certain America. But I don't even know what it is, but it's very Americana in like a certain, like a very specific way. Um yeah, if anyone has any better way to put that than I just did, then feel free. But in this video, the LWP pretty much defines that they believe true patriotism means to be forgotten. And the way that I wrote this in my notes, like, kind of tripped me up because I wrote true patriotism is being forgotten. So it kind of seems like, oh, the meaning of being truly patriotic is being forgotten. No, they mean being forgotten, like being the forgotten is what true patriotism is. And they say, quote, "The forgotten are the hidden engines of history, and history is greater than any deity or flag." And this part honestly kind of didn't really make that much sense to me when I was like first analyzing or watching these, and I was trying to like figure out like what all of this is. This part really didn't make that much sense to me at first because I was like, well, excuse me again. I was thinking like, well, history is like all about information. And if history is so important, then like, I don't know, don't you want to like protect it, hide the information? So why are you like praising history? But history in this video is defined as a greater tapestry of information. So it makes sense that they like want to protect history, I guess, because they want to protect information, but I guess protecting history in a different way than like protecting the way it's portrayed. They're more like protecting it from people. They want to hide it from people, I guess. But again, this part kind of did like trip me up a little, so if I'm like interpreting this wrong, then sorry about that. But this is just what is going through my head. So with the forgotten being like the greatest part of history, again, like I said, that didn't really make that much sense to me at first, because if they want to like hide away this information, then why would they want history to be protected? Because like when I think of history being protected, I think of the way that we portray and disperse the information needs to be like accurate, and everybody needs to know the truth, you know. We need to fix the history textbooks and accurately portray history. So to me, it was kind of just like, well, if you don't want this information getting out, why would you want to protect all this information and I guess teach it to people? But them kind of defining history as this greater tapestry of information and knowing the way that they feel about information, the history to them, I guess, is all of the information, and they want to all of the information that they have and are trying to protect, and that they want to keep within their organization. So if history is so important to them and it is all of this information that they're trying to protect, it would make sense why they're trying to recruit people, because either again, either you're in the know or you're not. So either you're a part of it or you're not, and either you're with them or you're against them. So pretty much being a forgotten person, and again, this is just to me and my interpretation, but being a forgotten person means either you are a recruit and you're a part of the Tuesday Project, or you are an info hazard and you basically become Silvio, or like the kidnapped guy in episode 0. So like this is basically them kind of saying like, hey, we pull the strings behind the scenes, like you don't even know that we're here, but like we're making all of this stuff happen, and we're like actually affecting you and your lives and people that you might even know and you don't even know. So in the A Higher Patriotism video, there's actually 2 hidden messages in Morse code, and shout out to Goose Boost again for making a video about this, just because I honestly have no idea if I would have deciphered the messages or not. It's not like super obvious that they're supposed to be messages or Morse code, I guess. I mean, it kind of is if you know Morse code, or like if you're familiar with it, you would hear like, oh, okay, that's Morse code. For me, I was just kind of like, okay, that's like a part in the video where something weird happens. So it's like, it's obvious that it's supposed to be something, but it's not like super obvious of like, oh my gosh, that's Morse code, at least to me. So, this is definitely one of the things that I am taking from his video, but definitely giving him credit, so nobody can say that I'm just totally stealing. But there's 2 hidden messages in this video, and the first one is at 33 seconds in, and it spells KNGKL in Morse code, and it's over top of text that says locate the Tuesday tapes. And then the second Morse code is 42 seconds in, over top of text saying before the snow falls. So locate the Tuesday tapes before the snow falls once again. But the second Morse code is just L33. So KNGKL33. And that means nothing to me. So once again, we're referencing the Goose Boost video, but people apparently told him, or people that he was talking to were saying that this is a possible reference to King Kill 33 by James Shelby Downward, which is a book written about the Freemasons and their role in the assassination of JFK. I have not read this book, and the story and the actual book and like all of that, again, it really doesn't have anything to do with the stories. You don't need to, you don't have to have read the book or anything like that. But James Shelby Downward is a conspiracy theorist who believes that the Freemasons had a role in orchestrating the assassination of JFK. And this pretty much, if it is a reference to King Kill 33, what people think and like what Goose Boost said in his video, and just honestly just what I'm going with, because this is really the only part of the video that I really didn't do like my own deep research into. But this part is basically kind of a teaser, kind of like symbolizing how any conspiracy theorist in America, and like hardcore conspiracy theorist, is afraid of some entity. They're like, oh, they're hiding stuff from us, like they have this information that we don't know, that we need, like whether it be the government or somebody has a conspiracy theory that all the banks are out to get us or all the hospitals are out to get us, like whatever entity that it is, there is something that is out to get us. There is some kind of entity or organization, and in this case that literally is the LWP. And it's kind of like when serial killers or criminals will like tease the media or the police by like sending evidence or like notes or messages and being like, hey, it's me, you're never gonna get me, haha. um that's basically what people think about this, if this is a reference to King Kill 33, because the LWP basically is that entity, and so they're basically like just kind of teasing, being like, hey, yeah, we're here, we're real, and you should be afraid of us. So that is pretty much all that I have on that, and like the secret messages and the Morse code. I honestly, I don't have any personal thoughts about that. I honestly feel like that is a good theory, and that is very possible. If it comes out that that's not it, then great. There's more things to figure out. But personally, I mean, that's what I'm gonna go with, just because I don't have any other thoughts on that. I just think good theory. So seeing the words or the phrases locate the Tuesday tapes before the snow falls again leaves us with the question, basically, like, what is gonna happen if we don't find, like, what's gonna happen, like, what do you mean? Basically, like, why do we need to find them? Like, is something gonna happen if we don't find them? Also, presumably before the snow falls is like before winter time. So I guess my thoughts on that are, I'm not sure. I don't really feel like it's something that the audience has to figure out. I think that it's going to be something that happens in the story. Like, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but maybe someone in the story is going to find out about the tapes. Maybe the LWP is going to get exposed or something like that. I don't know. We don't know. But that is a question. It's like, what's gonna happen? Like, what does this mean? What I think though is that probably around maybe winter time or something like that is when more episodes or more videos are gonna come. Just kind of like foreshadowing or like giving us like a teaser or a timeline. Because like I said, I don't think that it's supposed to be like the audience finds something or solves a puzzle, because it's not an ARG and it's not like advertised as an ARG. They have been pretty forthcoming with saying that it's an analog horror series. It's hashtagged analog horror in the description of some of the videos. It's just something that we just don't know. So finally, again, we see the phrase "tomorrow is our profession" again, which again pretty much just like alludes to how their goal, whatever it is to change the course of America's future, and like the people in the organization believe that it's their job, like it's their calling, it's what they're meant to do. Like they believe in it so wholeheartedly that it is their literal profession. to bring upon this future, whatever it is. Because like when you are watching the videos, it's very cryptic and it's very vague, and it's like you get what they're talking about, like you get it in your brain, like what they're saying. You're like, okay, yeah, but like what? It's like without context, it's like it's making sense, like you're saying words, but I like what for what reason though, you know? I don't know. It makes sense, but it also doesn't make sense. It's a lot. But I think that's why this is so good, is because I feel like, and it's also a feeling that we all know. Like it's like a familiar feeling. I just like can't even. It's almost uncanny. Like it's almost like an uncanny valley, but like for like a feeling inside of me. Like um, there is another video in this series that I kind of forgot to talk about it, I guess, but I can really fit it in anywhere, and it actually kind of fits in perfectly here. It actually kind of begins the series, but it honestly doesn't really matter too much when you watch it. But it's called Tuesday Overture, and it's pretty much just a bunch of like home movie footage, kind of. Like it starts off and there's like a bunch of tapes, and it's like somebody filming a little TV with home movie footage, or it's just like it's just like basic, normal, like mundane looking footage of like people walking around in like nature and stuff. And around a minute and 48 seconds in, Ezekiel 21:37 comes on screen, which if you don't know it by heart, which of course I don't at all, I don't know any Bible verses. There is a quote in Ezekiel 21:37 that says, "You shall be forgotten." So it pretty much introduces, the whole forgotten people concept and being forgotten. But it also introduces the LWP and Damnatio Memoriae, if you didn't get it in the ad, I guess. I mean, this video comes before the Enlist video, but I mean, this video really isn't much of anything. It's just kind of more of like an introduction. It's like it's giving like the, oh my gosh, like the theme song, like when you watch a TV show and the theme song comes on, it's giving like kind of like that. Like if you watched the Tuesday tapes, like I did actually, from the beginning of the playlist to the end, it's kind of just like the introduction to the series. But the reason why I said it fits in kind of perfectly here is because at this point, we're also kind of questioning like who the heck is uploading these videos, because it's probably not the LWP, because yeah, they're like recruiting people, but if they're this like organization, especially if they have the tools and resources to like literally create pills for people just to kill them, like you would think that they have probably some different or better way of like recruiting people than just like putting out these cryptic videos and literally scaring people. because like one of their huge things like is fear mongering, but I think the fear mongering thing probably only works with people that are already like kind of on board with whatever you're doing and like on the same page as you, I guess, because I don't know, I feel like if you talk about waging wars with information and like the whole world changing as we know it, like people are, that's gonna like cause a mass hysteria. So, you know, I feel like they're probably being a little smarter with their tactics about recruiting people. But so if it's not them, then like who is posting these? And there is evidence, I guess, to suggest that it is a person, just like some random person who found the tapes and is now posting them for some reason to either expose the project or get help. Maybe it's someone who's stuck in the middle of it. Maybe they're being hunted, or, you know, maybe they're just trying to get someone to figure out what the heck this is, you know. So, Tuesday Overture is a good piece of evidence for that, just because it's a lot of like kind of home movie looking footage, like somebody taped over the tape and then put the Tuesday tapes on, like over their old home movie footage or whatever. And then the same thing in episode 1, where the clips of President Bush talking on the radio, where it was like clips of like someone driving on the road and stuff like that, it was like obviously taped over something else to then put the Tuesday tapes on there and then for whatever reason share them. So yeah, that's another mystery for now. We're finally on the last episode that has been uploaded as of September 7th, 2024. So it's episode 2. It's titled Cody, and it's supposed to have taken place December 12th, 2001, or at least that's the date given by the LWP in their little title screen. And this episode starts off once again with a clip of President Bush talking on the radio. And he's talking about how everyone has a place in the world and everyone has a story, and all of our stories continue long after we've been forgotten. So there's not really much that I have to say about that. It's obviously just more stuff about being forgotten, and honestly just the President Bush stuff, just because it was around that time. It's just that era. I really don't think there's any kind of like deep political or conspiratorial like serious topics in this. I think it's just a fun art project that does mirror reality a little bit, but like not in the way that, like, you know, I don't think they're trying to say like, oh, this is real. Like, I don't think that, you know, this has any like political motivations or anything like that, is basically what I'm saying. Just, it's President Bush because it was during, it's set in during that time. Anyway, the LWP states that Cody has something that he shouldn't have. He has something that they want, and he is being watched by them for a very, very long time, apparently. That's what they say. They say that they've been watching him for a very long time. They don't really say how long, they just say, like, long. And also I say that the the date provided by the LWP was December 12th, because when Cody actually like starts filming, once we see Cody, his camera, like the date on his video says June 28th, 2001. So obviously his video, that's when his video was recorded. That's when he was recording his videos, but the LWP created their episode December 12th, 2001. Either way, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. It's 2001. So this episode is out of order when Cody actually starts filming. So like it starts with the clip of President Bush, and then once the like storyline actually starts, it's June 28th, 2001, and it starts with Cody in the dark. Like you can't see really anything, like it's nighttime and he's outside. And he's like whispering, and he seems, scared and paranoid. He's whispering and he's like talking about how there's something out there. There's something there with him. He's saying like there's something crawling around out here. I've been hearing noises. Like this is the third day that it's happened. He doesn't even know what time it is. He's like, what the heck even time is it? And like he's just kind of freaking out. But he's like whispering too. And so as he's like trying to figure out, I guess, what's going on, he kind of moves the camera upwards, and there's just a person standing there. And so he's like, oh my gosh. And he runs inside, and he's still like, he's like heavily breathing. And then there's like a window in wherever, like garage or whatever that he's in. A person just comes up like on the window, and then it cuts to him a few days before talking, pretty much explaining like what he's so paranoid about. And he is in his backyard or front yard. He's just in his yard. And he's basically explaining, like, I've been hearing noises at night and my motion sensor's been tripping, like, for no reason. And he says he put up a camera and he had the sheriff come out and review some of the footage. Basically, the sheriff was like, we can't really do anything, but you should just buy a gun. So also at this point, I'm kind of thinking, like, if this is a government organization, like I think it is, then there is a possibility that the police are in on it and like know what's going on. So obviously the sheriff coming out is gonna not be able to do anything or not want to do anything and just be like, oh, you should just go buy a gun. And if the cops are in on it, and if the sheriff is in on it, and he's like if he knows about the LWP, he probably knows that a gun isn't going to deter them, and that they are probably already going to know that he has the gun, where the gun is. Like, they could just get the gun from him. So if this turns out to be like some kind of government thing, the police could be in on it. One thing that I actually did forget to mention was that Cody is also filming over home videos. So it starts like before it starts and it's all dark and he's whispering and stuff. It starts off with like footage of a wedding, and then it cuts to him talking. And in the first clip of him talking, where he's talking about the motion sensors and stuff, he says that he actually hasn't touched the camera since December 1998, since Christmas 1998. which I'm not really sure if that's actually, like, it's not really a big detail, and I'm not sure if that's gonna be anything. And I'll talk about why probably later, but there was just a little something that I caught on to. But he is also filming over like home video footage, so that is more or less important detail. Then in between Cody telling you about the motion sensors and the cop coming out, there's another like clip of the wedding, but at around it's 3 minutes and 15 seconds there, it's during the wedding footage, there's a little flash, and if you pause it, it's a like grainy, distorted, like black and white image of a baby doll tied up to a chair. And this is actually an important detail, so I will get into that later whenever that becomes relevant, because it comes up again. After that little flash clip of the baby doll, it's Cody again, but he's sitting down in like his living room on his couch, and he's showing us this voicemail that he got on Tuesday morning, which would be June 26th as the time that he's recording this. So it's June 26th, 2001, which is a Tuesday, and the voicemail is someone just cryptically saying, "We know who you are and what you've taken. This is your final warning." So, yeah, I would be moving or something. Like, bye. That is terrifying. But yeah, so that's pretty much that. And then he cuts to explaining more stuff about him. So we're looking at like this video of this literally normal guy. Like he's a normal guy. He's literally just like walking around, and he's like talking about like, I mean, he's talking about this stuff, and he's like being paranoid, but like he's just a guy. And so, why? Why why are we watching this? Why are we watching this guy? Why what does the LWP want with him? Like, what the heck? So he basically starts talking about I guess why he thinks that all of this is happening, and it's kind of hard to follow. It was hard for me to follow, and I mean, not really, it's not hard to follow, but you kind of have to really put the pieces together yourself, because there actually isn't much dialogue, which, going back to the whole like mumblecore thing, a big part of like what defines it is lengthy dialogues, and there's not that much dialogue. It's just more of like the style of filming that it's kind of similar to that style, and then it's like following just people's life and interactions, but anyway, that's really not that important. But you kind of have to put the pieces together for yourself, because Cody isn't saying like, oh well, this probably is happening because of this, and because the video is out of order, this episode is out of order, it's a little more confusing. So it was a little bit hard for me to like follow, but I watched it multiple times, and of course I had the luxury of listening to Goose Boost talk about it as well. But Cody starts talking about pretty much, I guess, why he thinks all this weird stuff started happening, which is he's basically explaining why the LWP is hunting him. So he says that he used to work for a new wireless company. So I'm assuming it was like some kind of startup company, but he was a systems analyst. And I'm stupid, so I have no idea what the heck that means. So I went ahead and looked that up as well. And a systems analyst is an IT professional who designs, analyzes, and implements information systems, usually for like solving business problems and stuff. And that made everything make a whole lot more sense to me once I figured out, what the heck a systems analyst does, because it would kind of make sense that he's analyzing all of this information that he's stumbled across something that the LWP doesn't want him to have. So he's basically said, I used to work for this wireless company as a systems analyst, and the company failed. But basically he was like, when I was working there, I was like slaving away. I was there all the time, long hours, sleeping in my office, and then the company failed. And he actually says something interesting. He says, like, a lot of things with .com attached to them, because this is 2001, so this is when the internet is becoming a huge thing. And so like internet startups, a lot of them are gonna fail. So it seems like he's working for like some kind of startup company, and it fails, and he's unemployed, and so is everyone else in this company. And right at the perfect timing, he said his uncle called him and offered for him to stay on his ranch. So he's like, well, yes, please. Like, I literally have nothing else, like nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. So yes. So he just immediately packs up all his crap and leaves. And he says that when he's on his way to the ranch, he gets this feeling, like, just this like weird feeling, like he's forgetting something. Like, everybody knows that feeling. Like, when you have to be somewhere, like you have to go to school or something, and you need all your stuff, and you're just like getting it together, and then you're on the way, and you're like, oh my god, I know I forgot that one thing that I need. Like, I need it, and I know that I know I forgot it. Like, I forgot it. I just know. So he's like, this whole time I'm like feeling like I forgot something, but actually I ended up stealing something. And he has no idea like what it is, but it's literally a floppy disk. It's a yellow floppy disk with the word Tuesday on it. And he goes through like all these other floppy disks. He's like, this floppy disk, this one's mine, this one's mine, this one's mine. I know what this is, I know what this is. And then he's like, this, like, I have no idea what the heck this is. So he's like, maybe this is a coincidence, but it's weird.
Saved message, 8:57 a.m.
Mr. Edmonds, we know who you are. We know what you have taken. This is your final warning.
To replay this message, press 1. To delete, press 6.
Yep, I got that gnarly little surprise last Tuesday morning. Well,
Honestly, I was also thinking like that it was kind of ironic that Cody would become like a victim of the LWP, just because like it almost seems like that he is the kind of person that they're trying to protect from these like info hazard wars or whatever. I mean, like, it's still we obviously still have no idea like what they're doing, what they're trying to protect, who they're trying to protect, and like what, besides just like the future of America. Like that's really all we know. But I just think it's like kind of ironic because it almost seems like they are just trying to protect like regular people, and he is just like a regular person. But since he was a systems analyst, maybe that he stumbled upon something in doing his data analyzing and all of that kind of stuff, that he stumbled upon something that he shouldn't have, or that they didn't want him to see without even knowing it, because obviously like he has no idea what's going on. He's never seen this disc before. He just knows that he has it, and now all this weird stuff is happening. So we don't know how he got it. Like how did this end up in his stuff? We don't know. My best bet is on that he accidentally found it or stumbled upon it, or it accidentally ended up in his stuff from his systems analyst job at this new wireless company. That he also said that the wireless company was like geared towards like young people in like cities. So I feel like that could be something later on that comes back, but it's really nothing as of right now. The next clip, Cody is like sitting outside, and at first I thought he was like in like a shed or garage or something, but he's kind of in like just when you just step outside like your back door, and there's like kind of like a liminal almost space in between your house and the backyard, like where you kind of just walk out and it like becomes the backyard. Like I don't know, it makes sense in my head. But he's like outside, like right outside his back door, kind of just like sitting in between his house and the yard. And he has a baseball bat, and he's basically like, yep, I'm just gonna sit here and wait for the home intruders, basically, because at this point he's like, there are people, there's people that are after me. And like he doesn't know, but like he kind of knows. So he's sitting there with his bat and he's waiting, and at 7 minutes into the video, he like dozes off. He's like sitting in this chair, and he's just kind of like falling asleep, basically. And while he is sleeping, a figure, walks up behind him and stands there for a minute, and then it walks in the other direction. So like if I am Cody and the figure is like here, it goes off like into this corner over here, and you can't see it anymore. And then it kind of like cuts, like the video skips ahead a little bit, and he wakes up, but the door is open. And so he like drops a cigarette on himself, and he wakes up, and he realizes that excuse me. He realizes that the door is open. So he gets up and he goes to investigate. And this is when he comes back. He sees the upside down baby doll on his chair. So obviously someone was there, duh, because the door was open. Now there's a doll on his chair. So now he knows, okay, someone's here. But also, this is definitely the LWP saying to us at this point, this is for us, because we saw the flash earlier of the baby doll in the chair. I feel like that is the LWP like telling us that they're always one step ahead of us, and again, that we can either be with them or against them, and that this is what happens to people that are against them. Because Cody was obviously, or is obviously, a person who was not in the know. He was not with the LWP. So being not with them, even if you're not actively against them, to them inherently means that you're against them. So when they created his episode, they took his footage that he filmed and like inserted that little clip to be like, hey, this is about to happen. Like, yeah, we are here. He was right. He's not just being crazy and paranoid. We're gonna get you. So basically, I feel like they're just kind of saying like, there's nothing that you can actually do to like get away from us. Like, we're here all the time. We're behind the scenes. We're like, we're basically in your walls. We're basically in your walls. So yeah. So he's filming this doll and looking at it, and then he looks up and like the camera goes up with him, and there's a person standing in front of him, like a good distance away. I'm not sure exactly. I'm not good at like eyeballing distances, but maybe like 50 feet, something like that. A good distance away, like to where you can still see them. But like far enough to where this person starts swiftly, quickly walking towards him. Like, if somebody started walking towards me like that, I would absolutely go in the opposite direction. Like, no, I just, no. Like, not charging, just like speed walking towards me, towards Cody, not me, but like, you know. And once this figure person starts kind of hustling towards him, obviously Cody is like, no. And so he's freaked out. He tries to hurry back inside, and that's it. The video just ends there. But it also is kind of like a loop, because it seems like where he turns the camera up and you see the person is like where the video kind of starts. Like it would kind of loop around to him being like, oh my god, this is the third night in a row that this has happened. And that's pretty much all that we know of Cody. We have no idea what happened to him after that at all. Because he's not shown on camera. Like that's the end of his episode. So that's all we know so far about him. So obviously this is leaving us, you know, with questions about what's happening to him or what has happened to him. But there is one theory, but as I was filming this video, I think I actually kind of like discredited that whole theory. But if you do look back at episode 0, the kidnapped man kind of looks like Cody. Obviously you can't see his face because he has a cloth over his head, but they're wearing like a similar color shirt. Like Cody's wearing this red shirt and the kidnapped man has like a reddish color shirt on, but Cody's shirt says New York on it, and it's kind of darker. I mean, you can't really tell, but so they're wearing a similar shirt, just the color, and then they kind of have like a similar like body type, like build. Like Cody's a little bulky, stocky, but I mean, other than that, that's kind of it. Like there's not like there's really nothing else to go on. Like They kind of look similar. We don't know what happened to Cody. But the first episode, episode 0, sorry, was supposed to take place in 1998. I'm looking through my written notes right now to make sure. But episode 0 is supposed to have, taking place December 27th, 1998. So if Cody's episode is happening in 2001, and he's being hunted in 2001, then, like, there can really be no possible way that he is the kidnapped man from episode 0, because it literally happened before Cody's episode even was made, or before any of that even happened. Like, if the timestamps on the tapes are correct, which I would assume that they are, because they're analog digital tapes, they're not, like, you can't change that kind of thing. So I don't actually think that it is very likely that the kidnapped man in episode 0 is Cody. Before I bring this whole video to a close, though, there is one more kind of like subliminal message that happens in this episode. Actually, at the end of the episode, there's another really quick flash, and there's 2 photos that happen. They're very similar. One of them is one man in front of a window, and the other is 2 men in front of a window. And the window that they are standing in front of is inside of the World Trade Center, which is crazy. And these photos are actually from the bee thing, and if you don't know what that is, I didn't either, honestly, surprisingly, because it feels like something that I would be interested in. But the bee thing is a project, or was a project, by an art group called Gelatin. They're an Austrian art group. Sorry, my mom just started yelling at my cats. They're an Austrian art group, and they do a lot of like experimental, kind of like contemporary, just like commentary pieces and things like that. But they wanted to do this art project, and it literally was just them going into the World Trade Center illegally, but they went in there and they built this like makeshift balcony type thing, and they went out there and they stood on it and they took pictures. It was basically a whole thing, though, because they were not supposed to be doing it. They did have to like go in there at like early hours in the morning, and like they had to, infiltrate, like they had to sneak around basically, but they were literally, that's all that they were doing, was like the art project. And again, I didn't do too much research on this, because honestly this could be its own video on it, like by itself, but I'm just explaining because it's kind of a part of it. It's it's, you know, it's not a part of it, but like, I guess to understand. Anyway, so there are photos. I think it's only like a few photos, and it's also like you can hardly even tell really like if there's even a person. But this art project became extremely controversial because they did this around March of 2001, and they left behind one piece of evidence basically, because the only other witnesses to this happening were the people who were involved in it. Like, they got a helicopter to do aerial shots, and so the only people who saw or, you know, knew about it or whatever were involved in the project. So they left a piece of gum on the window to be like, hey, I was here. Obviously that's not there anymore. But when the thing that happened that we all know about, and that I'm not gonna say because I don't want this video to get deleted, or like flagged or something by YouTube. But when the big bad thing happened, everybody pretty much said, hey, you guys were like just there? What the heck? So basically everybody was throwing shade at Gelatin and the people who did the art project, because they were like, this is so suspicious. Like, why the heck were you guys there literally months before this crazy terrible thing happened? So people basically began speculating that, first of all, that they had something to do with that whole event, which is ridiculous. But also that the bee thing, the art project, never existed in the first place, because one, the photos, like, you can hardly even tell that there's like a person there, and like obviously you can't prove like who it is. And two, because the people that were involved like deny that it ever even happened or existed, because they are afraid of, well, obviously the backlash, but they were like actually afraid of being investigated by the FBI, just because of how, like, first of all, serious the allegation is, but also like there's so many people that are saying like, oh my gosh, you guys did this, you guys were there during this time. There was a guy named Josh Harris, and he was supposedly the one who like secured them the helicopter and other equipment, who still denies that the bee thing ever even happened, that it ever existed. Not even that he was involved with it, like, period, that it ever existed, because he's afraid of getting investigated by the FBI. And I mean, it's kind of valid because I mean, like, they were doing all that stuff illegally. And I'm not saying anything about that situation at all, but they did do all that stuff illegally. So I mean, technically he probably still could have gotten in some trouble. Obviously they were not gonna get into the trouble that people were saying that they were going to, but I don't know. Just, I mean, I think being afraid is definitely valid. And I also think that making this like even more cryptic is kind of, it plays up more of like publicity. It makes it more of a mystery. It makes it kind of cooler. even though it's not even that famous, just because, you know, all the stuff surrounding it, not that many people actually know about it. But I digress about the bee thing, because it really doesn't actually have anything to do with the Tuesday tapes, and the Tuesday tapes has nothing to do with any of that stuff, any of those events or anything. And that has actually been confirmed by the creators. It doesn't have anything to do with the events in 2001. Just being extra careful because I don't want YouTube to get upset with me. But the bee thing photos are basically just a subliminal message in the episode. Pretty much like to show a underground organization, I guess, that could come after someone, because like Josh Harris was afraid of getting investigated by the FBI because of the bee thing, and now these info hazards are getting neutralized or investigated by the LWP. So it's kind of more just like a mirroring type thing, or like, you know, just another symbol, another subliminal message, because there's a lot of those in this, and I actually kind of love that. So that was the Tuesday tapes as it stands today. That's all that's out so far, but it honestly was a lot. It doesn't seem like a lot when you just watch it, but when you really get into it, it actually is, and there's so many details, and it's really well written that I feel like there's so much potential, because like I'm speculating right now about like future episodes, and like, oh well, maybe this is happening. But the one last detail that I will talk about is at the very end of episode 2, there is another voicemail that's played after the pitch black screen that cuts off. There's another voicemail that's played, and it says, "Mr. Edmonds, Cody, we need to talk. I know what's been hunting you." So for me, that's just leaving us off on like a cliffhanger, and it's kind of setting it up for another episode, and it kind of seems like maybe this person on the other end of the phone is the next victim. But yeah, that is it so far. That has been the Tuesday tapes, and that has been my take on them, or my little recap. And yeah, I hope you guys liked this. I hope that it was coherent, and I also hope that you guys will go watch the series. Also go watch Goose Boose's video. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what comes out in the future from this, and hopefully I'll be able to make another video on it soon. Bye.